Hello everyone. Today we are in the shop. We're trying to figure out what's going on with this 72 Mustang behind me here. She's having a problem with the signal lights and I think it's in the switch, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're gonna look into that and see what I can find out. So this is my mother's 72 Mustang. And she only drives it in the summer, of course it's normal here in Ontario. We found that the left signal light was not working, the right was working, and then when I was doing testing trying to figure out what was going on with that, the right stopped working too. So I'm thinking the switch itself is fried. As you can see, I've already taken the center off the steering wheel. And I've loosened the nut here. Get the wheel off. So the switch has been replaced before. And it was working and now it's not. We still have hazards. But as you can see, the hazards are only working on one side. So we have to figure out what's going on with the system. And of course I have to trace all the wires. The problem with working on a 50-year-old car is that so many people have been working on it over the years and changing things and removing things and putting other things back in, and so the wiring really doesn't match the schematic and things are not where they're supposed to be. So we have to trace everything back and see what we can figure out. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pull this switch because I'm thinking that that's the issue. I traced some wires, I located the signal flasher. The signal flasher is fine. I can't see any issue with the wiring. So we're going to pull the switch out and see if there's an issue inside there. Okay, so after a bunch of testing, I've found a few problems with this switch. One, right here, as you can see, this wire is supposed to be connected where you can see that brass spot there. It's supposed to be connected the same way these are, with like a rivet. The rivet's obviously broken off. So this wire is not connected. That's one issue. Another issue I found is that this wire was not making a connection through the post. So I've kind of flared that post out a little bit more so that it's actually making connection. So far so good. Signals are still not working though, so I have to trace the wires back from the flasher to see if it's actually even getting power. Using a test light, you can see that there is no power. No power to the flasher. So I had to take the switch apart. I had to pop this center ring off here and pull this plastic piece out. And I had to make up a new post to stick through and solder the wire to the post. Everything seems to be working okay now, so I'm going to reinstall the switch and make sure that everything's still working properly, and hopefully that'll be it. Okay, so the switch is back in and the wiring is all straightened out, I think. Okay, so there's no signal light, so there's obviously a problem getting power to the flasher, I think. Okay, let's see if it works. We have right signal and we have left signal. Perfect. And the hazards are working on one side only. So there's a wiring issue down at the bottom that I know of. so I'll have to reconnect that wire, and then hopefully that'll be it. And everything will work after that. Okay, so I'm back here working on this Mustang Switch again. I had it all in and it was working for a few tries, and then I suddenly started getting the right turn signal light flashing when I would turn the left signal on. So, but only the right rear, which is weird. So the switch itself is the repair that I made to it is not working. So I picked up a new switch, and I think there's a short in the wiring. Hopefully it's in the switch harness, not the main harness, but we will find out. So as you can see, this is where the harness runs under the steering column for the switch. So I have to disconnect a whole lot of stuff, pull a bunch of stuff out to get this harness out of the way, to get the switch out and get the new switch in and feed the harness back down the steering column to the bottom, and then attach it to the main harness underneath. So we're gonna get to that now and see how it goes. As you can see here, I've already removed this plastic piece from the column here that covers up this section. You can see where the harness is here. Next, I'm going to remove this bottom plastic piece here, a couple screws here that I'll take out and drop that out of the way. So I've got that plastic piece off of here now. The next is going to be to remove these bolts here, and hopefully that'll allow me to push the steering column up enough that I can slide the harness out. We'll see how that goes. Okay, now that we have these bolts removed, the column will lift up and I can slide the harness out. Just like that. Back up top, we'll just undo this. Get that out of the way. And then the whole harness slides right out. And then we're clear to put the next one, the new harness, the new switch and harness back in. Okay, so slide the new harness in. Just like that. Switch. Put this back in place. In and the switch. Slide this in, make sure that this pin lines up with the hole down there, and that the hazard switch lines up with the slot at the side of the column. Make sure the wires aren't binding. The switch is in place. We have three screws to put back into there. And the switch is screwed in. Screw the arm in. Screw the arm into the hole there. binding, everything's moving freely. We're good, good there. Okay, now to feed the rest of the harness down through the column. So now, once again, we lift the column, push the harness down through. This part's a little tricky because the harness binds at the bottom. Okay, got the harness through. This plug on the end was a bit of a pain to get through at the bottom, but it's through now. Wire's laying flat. Just put the bolts back into the column. Okay. Bolts are snug back up. So now we'll hook up our wires and hopefully everything will work. Okay, so all this stuff is put back together. I found a bad wire in the harness, so I bypassed the bad wire and ran a new wire up under the dash and over to the flasher, so everything should have power now. It should work properly. Okay, so the switch is back in, the wiring is sorted, and we'll just check and make sure everything is working. We have our hazard lights on the front. Yep. And yep. And now we'll test the signals. Right signal. Oh, there we go. Right signal. Right signal. Right signal. And we have the left on the dash. Left signal here. Left signal up front. So, I'd say we're good to go. Now, just have to put the steering wheel back on and take it out for a test drive. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is install the steering wheel. Now, these pins here, they make contact on the inside of the steering wheel. One pin goes in this ring, one pin goes in this ring. And then when you put the horn, you push the horn button, it makes a connection and triggers the horn. And then this here is the signal canceller. So we have a signal on, this comes around and flips it off. And this pin here rides in this groove. That groove right there. So now when we're installing the steering wheel, make sure we put it on the right way. Now I made sure when I was taking it off to keep the steering wheel straight like this. so I know exactly where it's going to go back on. So I'll try to line up this pin here. So then when this goes on like this, there we go. You can feel the pins made contact on there. So it should be good. And then these tabs on the bottom are for the horn button wires. Just put the nut on the middle. So now that's nice and tight, can't go anywhere. Now we test the signals again just to make sure nothing changed when we put the steering wheel on. Nothing seems to be shorting out, everything seems to be okay. So far so good. So now we attach the center, the horn button. So we have two wires underneath here that connect to those two tabs there. And we just plug these in, just like that. And that goes on. And then there are two screws that go into the back. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, this hole right there. So the screws will go in there, and that will hold the center in place. So while I was messing with the wiring harness, I thought I'd try to see why this stereo wasn't working. I found a similar problem to the signal switch. The wire was cracked and broken. It wasn't making proper contact. So I bypassed the harness and everything seems to be working. So that's good. Should be good to go. Yeah. 2-for-1 deal. Alright. Should be it for all the wiring problems. Okay, so everything's put back together. The horn works. Signals work. Radio works. I think it's good to go. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it informative. Click subscribe and the notification bell to see more content in the future. Thank you.